Welcome back to Captivation Radio. Today I am going to talk about the fear of communication, some of the causes, and how to overcome that fear and really find your voice. So I recently did a video about just like overcoming the fear of communication and how it changes when you're in healthier situations. And I received a lot of feedback from people that either have been through the fear of communication or maybe don't realize that that's what's going on with somebody else in their life. So I think it's a really important subject because a lot of people have had their voices silenced, whether that was in like familial relationships or romantic relationships or in school or in the justice system or racially or just every different kind of situation. People go through a lot of different things where people don't want to hear other people's voices, and that leads to people having a fear of communicating in general. So what exactly is the fear of communication? The fear of communication can also be called communication apprehension or glossophobia. I just learned that word today. And that's an anxiety or discomfort that you feel when you're interacting with others, and that can be spoken communication, written, or even nonverbal communication. And that can manifest itself in different forms, different contexts. For some people, it's just public speaking. Some people, it's really that interpersonal communication. Other people, it's group discussions, like they're good one-on-one, but once you get in a group, they don't say anything at all. And for some people, it's just like these normal everyday conversations that seem like they should be easy to have, and they're not always. So it's just something to be aware of. Everybody feels differently about communicating and how they prefer to communicate. And people that really have a fear of communication may experience different physical symptoms associated with anxiety, like sweating, trembling, a rapid heartbeat, and even panic attacks in some situations when they're faced with communicating. And people may also avoid situations in which they would have to communicate, like social gatherings or speaking opportunities, any situations when you have to express yourself. If you have this fear of communication, it can really limit the situations that you're willing to put yourself in because you are scared to talk to people. And like I said at the beginning, the fear of communication can stem from so many various factors, like generalized social anxiety, which is the fear of judgment or rejection from others, low self-esteem, the lack of confidence in your ability to clearly communicate what you want and need. And one of the big ones is past negative experiences, traumatic or embarrassing experiences related to communication. And that again can be from any situation: work, school, home, family, romantic partnerships, friendships, where you have been traumatized because of your desire to communicate. And this is another big one, perceived threats. So somebody in a position of authority made it feel like you shouldn't be communicating. And this could be also like from large audiences, if you've ever had done public speaking and it didn't go great, and then now you're scared of like doing it again. Some people, it's just unfamiliar social situations that triggers that threat response, that fear response. You feel like something is going to happen to you. And then another one is cultural or linguistic barriers. So this is when you have difficulty expressing yourself because you have a naturally different language. Like if you are in the United States and English isn't your first language, you might be afraid that you're not going to pick the right words, or people aren't going to understand the words that you're choosing. And then there's cultural differences. Even if everybody speaks the same language, something that people say in their country versus what they say here might be different. And it could be even people just in the United States, we all have different language and terminology. So there's just so much that goes into communication that it's not surprising that people have a fear of communicating when you really like think about all like the little nuances that go into communicating. And then, so regardless of what the cause is, having a fear of communication can significantly impact your personal and professional life because it hinders your ability to form relationships. It hinders your ability to advance in your career or in your business, or to really fully engage in and enjoy social activities. So overcoming this fear is really important for you to have the best quality of life. And it really starts with being self-aware, building your communication skills, and gradually exposing yourself to communication situations. And I want you to really understand that I just emphasized the word gradually, because this does not mean like, oh, I'm going to get over my fear, so I'm going to go talk in front of 300 people. That's not at all what I mean. But if you have a fear of social situations, maybe start going somewhere where you're going to know some people, so you'll be comfortable, and try to speak to a new person while you're there. Or, you know, try to, when normally you would feel yourself shutting down, you just be like, okay, I'm going to push through and I'm going to say what I need to say. Just small steps. You don't have to change your whole mentality around communication overnight. That's not how things like this work. Gradual is key. And then seek support from your friends, mentors. You know, if it's to the point that you're having panic attacks and it's not something that you can deal with on your own, definitely you can speak to a mental health professional that can help you manage these things effectively. So let's start now. How are we overcoming our fear of communication? First, we have to acknowledge the root cause. Many people have a fear of communication due to past traumas or experiences where their voices were silenced or dismissed. And these experiences can leave deep emotional scars, and they also contribute to an ongoing fear of speaking up or expressing yourself. So when you can recognize the impact of past trauma, it's really the first step to healing and overcoming this fear. So for this, I would want you to sit down and really think, like, in what situations was my voice silenced? Or in what situations was I punished for speaking up? In what situations was I told it's not acceptable for my voice to be heard for whatever reason? And then think about like what repercussions came from you choosing to speak up. I have always been incredibly outspoken, and I have been reprimanded the majority of my life for speaking my mind. People didn't want to hear the things I had to say. I was going to say challenging child, but that's not what I mean though. I wanted to challenge everything. I didn't accept anything as it is. You couldn't just tell me like, this is the way it's always been, so this is the way it's going to be. I was not accepting of that. I wanted to know why. Why are we doing things this way? And if it didn't make sense, I didn't have any problem telling whoever it was, like, this doesn't make sense. I don't like this. I don't want to do things this way. And I was told over and over and over again that I should be quieter, that I should bite my tongue. And then I still revolted against that. But then I found myself in certain situations where the punishment was more severe for me not being able to bite my tongue. And then I entered into relationships where I was told I was too loud and I was too much. It's not appropriate to say these things in this time or place, and that's not how a lady conducts herself. And also just shown that it didn't when I did express my feelings, I was met with well, you feel this way, but didn't you do this, this, and this, so your feelings don't really matter. Like an invalidation of feelings, or being attacked for speaking up for feelings. In these situations can lead you to just not want to say anything. So in 2020, when I started my podcast, like if you haven't listened before, I'm psychic. So I get these downloads, and the message was like, find your voice, find your voice. And I definitely thought that this message was telling me to help other people find their voice. And I was using my podcast platform and my social media platform to help other people find their voice. But it took me a few years to understand that it was also telling me to find my voice, because I had stopped speaking up. I had kept so many things to myself and so many things bottled up that I was now actually doing what everybody always wanted me to do, which was bite my tongue. And even though I felt like I wasn't, there was so much that I was holding back. And for me, it was not one root cause. It was like probably thousands of different situations added up together. So I'm assuming for a lot of you, it's going to be more than one thing. But start with like the major events and think about what happened. And I think when you start to go back and you analyze these situations, you're going to realize that you still weren't wrong. Just because you spoke up and people didn't like it, that didn't make you wrong. In the majority of the times that I've seen people silenced, they were correct, and the people silencing them were wrong, but the people silencing them didn't want their voices to be heard. So just go back and look at the situation and see, like, yeah, I was right for speaking up, and I didn't deserve whatever happened. Okay, so second step, validate your feelings. And that's kind of what I was getting at with the last part too. If you've been through trauma or you've been silenced in the past, it's very important that you validate your own feelings and understand that your fear of communication is a natural response to the experiences that you have been through. Give yourself permission to feel the emotions that arise and understand that all of your emotions are valid. Don't feel angry towards yourself because you've stopped speaking up, or you didn't speak up in certain situations that you think you should have, after you've already been through trauma that's taught you not to speak up. If you're having trouble dealing with your past trauma, it is okay and often necessary to seek professional support. So talk to a therapist, talk to a counselor if you need to process your feelings. Not everyone can sit down and process their feelings by themselves, and not all of your friends are going to want to listen to you processing your feelings over and over and over. So learn how to ask for help when you need it. If you can process it yourself, that is okay. You can learn coping strategies on your own. You don't have to talk to someone, but definitely if you feel like it's something that you can't get through by yourself, there's nothing wrong with talking to someone about it. And then the next step is to reclaim your voice. Take back ownership of your voice and your narrative. Like I always tell you, this is your story, and you can write it however you want to. So recognize that your thoughts, your opinions, your experiences are valid, and you are worth being heard. And then engage in activities that empower you to express yourself. That could be through writing or art or speaking engagements, or you could podcast. You could make TikToks and reels and whatever you want to do to share what makes you happy. Share your story if you want to. Do whatever you want to do, because whatever you have to say, somebody needs and wants to hear. And it might not seem like it, but I know from personal experience, even the most random things that I'm like, I wonder if anybody else feels like that. Whenever I ask people, like, do you feel like this? They're like, yes, I do. And then I'm like, okay, not alone in the world. Other people get it too. And then the next step is very important, and I swear this comes up in almost every single episode these days, is set boundaries. Establishing healthy boundaries is essential for protecting yourself from further harm. Surround yourself with supportive individuals who respect your voice and your boundaries. And learn to say no to solutions. Don't say no to solutions. Say no to situations or people that make you feel unsafe or uncomfortable. When you are in a situation and you find yourself shutting down because you know it's not safe to express yourself, stop being around those people if you can. Do your best to limit your contact with people that make you feel like you are not safe to speak your mind. And then practice self-compassion. Be gentle with yourself, always, but definitely as you navigate overcoming a fear of anything. And especially if it has to do with trauma. It's not going to be an overnight solution. You're not going to read a book and wake up tomorrow and be cured. It's a process. Be gentle with yourself. Do your self-care. Remember that healing takes time and effort, and celebrate your progress along the way, no matter how small it is. If you're scared to talk to anybody and you have a short conversation at the grocery store, reward yourself. Be like, oh my God, I did good today. I talked to this person and I normally wouldn't do that. And connect with other people. So seek out communities and groups where you can connect with people that have similar experiences. Sharing your stories and listening to others can provide validation. People that have similar backgrounds as you will have more empathy to your situation. And that sense of belonging is very healing. Like I said, it's good to know that you are not alone and you're not the only one that feels this way. Building connections with supportive peers can alleviate those feelings of isolation and help empower you to reclaim your voice. And then use your voice for change. So channel your fear of communication into a force for positive change. Advocate for yourself or advocate for others who have been silenced or who have been marginalized in any way. Find something that you are passionate about and support the cause, because when you are supporting something outside of yourself, it gets easier to speak up. You can use platforms like social media and community events and activism to amplify your voice and the voice of others and raise awareness about issues that are important to you. And being able to help others is also very healing for yourself. And then practice self-expression. Engage in activities that allow you to express yourself freely and authentically. And that could be journaling, which nobody has to see, but you can just express yourself. Singing, creative projects, just any outlets that allow you to find your voice and express your thoughts and emotions with no fear of judgment. And celebrate your resilience. Recognize the strength and resilience it takes to confront your fear of communication in the face of whatever past trauma you've had to deal with. Celebrate your courage. Knowing that every step that you take towards reclaiming your voice brings you closer to healing and empowerment. By addressing your past trauma and reclaiming your voice, you can gradually overcome that fear of communication and emerge as a confident and empowered communicator. And remember always that healing is a journey, and you deserve to be heard and respected. And I love all of you. Thank you for listening.